multi-species fishing beyond just the home. So a little bit about me, pretty much close to the native origin as it is. I was born out of the country at 4 months of age, come back here, and no other place other than Oregon to be at home. So other than being here 62 years and 8 months, that's about as native I can get. So I am a licensed Coast Guard Silverback captain. Been the past president of the Bass Federation for 15 years. So I ran that organization as tournament directors, president, treasurer, you name it. I led the office, both tournaments, ran tournaments. I'm also my own personal accolades. I'm a two-time Oregon state bass champion. Been to the dance twice at the Nationals, so seen 2 national dances as well. So I fish, I hunt, cook, scuba dive, do a lot. And then I've got a lot of supporting sponsors to help out with all of my endeavors, brands. I'm a Cabela's Bass Pro Shop ambassador as well too, so I do a lot of work with them at the Bass Pro Shop store as well as it. Sound run, diode, marine, true detention chiropractic, gotta keep your health up. IPA physio, and then fins grading, and also cold water shop. So just to name a few, also got a few others that also we big guys and support them as well too. So just a little bit about my company. So again, we're full service around the entire state of Oregon, in all multi-species bass, salmon, sturgeon, walleye. We do a lot of fishing and crab as well. Sightseeing tours, we do corporate outings, team building events. Also with my Lawrence background, so some of you might know that I'm usually at the Lawrence group at the sports show. So I'm one of the West Coast staffs as well too. So a lot of electronics training background there. So I do training as well as installation of electronics lighting. So again, something else besides just guiding. So so a lot still involved in the fishing industry, and also we point black car service too. So airport to home, airport to residence. Anybody's needed that, that's on my drive. So also offer that as well. So topic tonight, smallmouth bass fishing. I have an array of different techniques and rods and stuff, and we can get a little bit later in the evening if you want. So I'll go. A lot of it's going to be at a pretty high level, say 30,000 foot view, but I will drill down with some things about some of the techniques that we use for smallmouth. Springtime for me is probably one of the most exciting times for bass fishing. Fish are always on the move, they're on hunt, they're aggressive, and they can be anywhere basically in the waterfront. In the Columbia River offers a lot of opportunity for smallmouth, from deep to shallow. And these fish are eaten basically wherever you want to go out there at any point. And the one key takeaway to that is just location. These fish are constantly on the move in the spring, which makes it really interesting. So going to your favorite one rock or one beach doesn't always pan out because these fish are constantly moving. So currently right now in their migration phase, just like salmon, these fish typically will go from in their deep haunts in the winter, they'll start getting out of their deeper water, transitioning from different positions in the water in the river, from breaks, and then they'll start moving into backwaters where they'll start their spawn process. And the spawn process, typically it's going to be based on water temperature, so if the water reaches about 55 degrees, usually about 50 is kind of the marker up here. Other places in the country, like largemouth bass and smallmouth and largemouth, they definitely differ in water temperature with water that they like to spawn. So smallmouth typically will spawn a little colder than largemouth. Up here, our smallmouth, I've seen them, as early as 50 degrees start spawning, and as late as 60 degrees when the water in the Columbia gets up there, which will get us into late June. So we've got different waves of smallmouth spawns also. So right now it's like there's an early wave getting ready to start here on the next full moon. I think we're going to see some spawns coming up just because we've had a seasonably warm spring so far. So I would suspect that probably sometime in April we'll probably have the next moon phase, so we'll probably have a spawn for small. Walleye have one on it, and also walleye have already moved back. They're already big bounce for some. See the moon makes some big females and large males on the flats. So catching a combination of both and food, like walleyes too as well. So really interesting. So during the springtime, again, kind of hitting on that key point, they're aggressive and they're hungry. So again, wherever you go out there, whatever you use, whatever your favorite technique can be, if you have always started, it's going to be a good technique. So there's not a one shoe fits all. I've got different assortment of baits. We catch them all different ways, which makes it exciting. So it's just not a very, you don't have to stay, you can stay simple, but you can get as complicated as you want. You can get really intricate with this, and then there's more tackle, and who knows what that's out there. Probably 90% it's more to catch the angle than the fish. You can catch them all on one color green pumpkin, so you buy one thing, you tip, buy green pumpkin. That's all you do, one color, green pumpkin. Well, it's anywhere in the United States or anywhere in the world, right? You're going to get a lot of things, a lot of shapes, you can buy anything fast, you can buy green pumpkin yourself. So, a lot of good numbers. So if you're looking for activities, whether it's for the youngsters, trying to get the youngsters involved in the outdoors, or you yourself wanting to catch more fish, wanting to understand how fish behavior, a lot easier to understand how they eat and catch numbers versus trying to look at that long string on the top of the nowhere. So yeah, it was tough today. It was a grind today. So, but they're they're plentiful fish. So when I guide for them, they said I don't promise numbers, but I promise that we will catch fish. And sometimes those numbers are 25 a person, sometimes they're 50 a person, sometimes they're 100 a person. It just depends. I mean, numbers, depending on what we're out there and what we're doing, and it's not uncommon that, two guys break on 200 fish in a day. It's pretty fun. You guys, nobody's complaining. Nobody's complaining that they catch fish. I mean, sometimes they say the wrists are, they got 10 cents. But again, it's first world problems at that point. It's like I got 200 fish in my outfits. I don't know what's happening. Yes, sir.
You only do, I just missed what you said, you only do catch and release.
I do some catch and kill as well, but we have boat limit. So I establish a boat limit also on boat. So if there's harvesting, I only allow, the old state limits were 5 fish. So 5 bass, and then they're within slot 2, so 12 to 14 inches. So I'm always taking slot fish. So anything over 14 goes back to the beautiful Kodak moment. Anything under, you keep it if you want, but I typically tell you don't, because it's a little tiny fish stick, and if you're going to consume it, and also there's something important. So 12, 14's got my gauge there. So I have a mix of customers. I have customers that want to do minimum catch and release, which is great, and I have ones that want to harvest. And when you harvest, and we harvest and then one that, so you can either make the day really short, or you make it really long. You start picking and choosing which ones you get to harvest. So maybe 1 in every 30 fish, 1 in every 10 fish. Maybe 5 fish. So I mix it up quite a bit. The beauty of it, no need to crack up. That's it. This is a 24, essentially it's available 24 hours a day. People start at 9 o'clock in the morning. Start at 9 o'clock in the morning. You can start at 11 after breakfast and after lunch and everything. It's a beautiful thing, right? You just go whenever you feel like going. So great opportunity out here. We've got a beautiful resource out here, especially in the Northwest, and it's an untapped resource. So from the standpoint of how, I don't know if you can with management of chrome fish versus management of smallmouth, I mean, like I'm the self-governor. Right? I'm the one governing whether or not I keep or take, or which ones I decide to remove or where I fish, but also to have to be a steward of that resource. I'm not taking fish out of the same holes over and over again, including my areas that somebody wants to take. So, for me, it's advantageous to be moving around, maybe take one here, one there, which is fine. I'm not depleting the resource, and I'm also helping cultivate and make smaller fish, and removing some of the smaller fish that are potential to be around. So, that's what I'm doing self-storage of managing resources. One key point I always love about this, about bass fishing, I always enjoy taking the grandkids and the kids out because it gives them something to catch. It's action. So I know the first one, somebody really interested in fishing, no better way to catch, right? So when you're catching, you're enjoying it, you like it, you can put that endorphin connection with it's a great time. And caught, they have that same mesh over here. So they're back to doing that on the catch snake. Pictures a few of the Columbia River smallmouth, a few of the friends and clients that are up there. Time of year, what to look for. Out here, so, there's different areas. You got break, flats, edges, where these fish are. And if we're talking about breaks, I'm talking about where, if you're not familiar with break is where we have a transmission river, like a river bottom line. Okay? The edge, the corner, or stair step, that would be a break. Some of those breaks are deep, they're 15 to 30 feet. Flats, big flat areas of the river. Some of them are shallow as 3 feet. It's a big, vast, flat river. So this area right in this room is flat. Whatever. Start at the stage up here, it's a little bit higher up here, kind of falls down to the ledge of the stage, and walk that down. You can kind of picture that at the bottom of the river. That's what I would consider a flat. Edges are pretty self-explanatory. It's just an edge of some transition area where there's rocks, sand, rocks, gravel, gravel and sand, edges, fish or anything. Can you get anywhere between this time of year, 10, 15, maybe shallow, and you get in, transition to the shallows. This time of year, since the art in a spawning situation, you'll find these fish shallow, which makes bank angling really accessible, really great access to these fish for banking. So you don't necessarily need a boat to fish for these fish. You just need to know where to be at what times of the year, springtime, summertime, be on bank and catch these fish. So an opportunity again for the bank angler, you don't need to put in $100,000 to buy your basketball, which we all encourage you to do. That's worth the time, buy the boats, but it's not necessary. Right? And so you take this boat craft, doesn't matter. So they're all, whatever you have, I mean, it's usable on here. Just be careful. So when we look at areas like rocky locations, I mean, they can be in. So if I look at this map here, so American folks are interpreting what this map looks like. So this area right here, this would be a hump. So this 47 would represent the top, and you see how these lines are really tight coming across this thing right here. So that's a steep transition on this, on the upstream and the downstream side here of this hump. And then the shoreline here is really steep drop off because the line's really tight in between here from the shoreline to where the bottom of the river is. That shows a really steep drop off. So when you're reading a map, like this area up here, this would be more of a flat where you have nice space between the contour lines, so each one of those is representing either a foot depending on the scale of the map would be. And that slowly tapers out from the bank all the way out to deep water. So it's a big tapered flat that's out there. So just reading in these areas here, that would be the differences of where those fish would be located when you're looking at it. Like this time of year, like this area right in here, this little pinch point right there between the bank and where the hump is, that right there potentially would be a good spot. So some of you know where that's at, and where that spot is. So again, hitting on key points, flats, drop offs, make sure boulders, sand, gravel, sand. I mean, contrary to folks contradicting what's out there, sand will hold these fish as long as there's food out there. Beans, clams, whatever. There's all kinds of things. So I've been on multiple research projects, also with ODFW and also Clean Water Cleanup, Superfund Cleanup for the Willamette and Columbia. So I've done some of the lodging on the bats. We come up with all kinds of critters that they eat. So they're not, again, this is one, that's all one critter species. So we feed this in the we call them the clams, all kinds of bait fish, sculpin, shad, you name it, perch, wherever they're opportunities. It's in the area that I'm not to look out. So, I don't think anything's ever off the radar. So that's the guy we're looking for. Really small. What to use? So here's where I'm gonna touch on a few kind of, a few items where I feel that are pretty productive, but there's four shops out there that have some for you. Feel free to shop it. Kind of fun techniques, lures, jerkbaits, crankbaits. So if you're unfamiliar with those are, so those are those rattling, steep-looking things that look like jerkbait. Plugs like this that have a big bill on them. Those
Power on. USB speaker.
What's that?
Bluetooth connection.
Food source that's out there. Real popular, real easy to fish. Good bottom contact. One of my another go-to lure that I fish. Fairly inexpensive to buy, and you can get them all kinds of different colors and sizes. So pretty versatile. And both largemouth and smallmouth will eat them as well too. So it's not just a smallmouth bait. These tubes over here, or these guys here, are the micro tubes, or even the larger tubes. Again, all different myriad of different colors, shapes, and soft plastics again come in all different types of shapes that mimic crawls, sand shrimp, all kinds of stuff like that. So all kinds of goodies. But as long as you get close to the food forage, you want to what out in nature is purple. Really don't have an idea for a purple lure. For low light conditions, that purple is that shade. It's a different variation. So the fish is not detecting the color, actual color in that low light situation. You just see the difference of the shade, of the difference of the purple, and the purple will pop. And so that's what the difference really comes in. So the different techniques, I've rated kind of different styles and techniques up there on the table. I'll kind of go over, I touched a little bit on the crankbait, reaction bait lures. Typically fishing again on a casting rod. You can use spin casts as well too. So you can put them on a spin rod. You can fish either way. So it does not matter, on how you can, you still run plugs on a spin cast versus you can run them on a casting rod. So, it's not right or wrong. Basketball might make fun of you, but outside of that, nobody cares. Right? So you can fishing on whatever equipment maybe you're comfortable with fishing. Not a right. There's guys that even out on pro tours, they fish spinning because they're not good at bait casters. You're going to start out a young person, start out with something easy, put them on spin gear, don't force them to use the bait caster. That's one reason. That's going to be the fastest way to throw a person away from fishing period, right? To have a professional overrun. Nobody wants to see professional overrun. But the different types of styles of, again, reaction lures, your crankbait, your jerkbaits, and that picture I didn't have, there was a lipless crankbait. So it's basically almost like a diamond-shaped lure, mimics a lot of different fish and stuff. And so they call those rattle traps. Also, there's another. So we also recommend lipless lures. Those are pretty popular as well too. And the other four different techniques over here: the drop shot, the Texas rig, Carolina rig, still shotting. All these techniques typically are done either spin or cast. So either fishing rod works for the techniques. It's a personal preference. Okay? I'm not going to say one is right or the other. It's just what you feel comfortable with using, as long as you match the rod, line, and reel to the lure weight and action you're trying to achieve. So there's not a design recipe that you must do this with this to equal this. Nope. It's all over the board. Whatever you feel comfortable with, there's no right, there's no wrong reason, no absolute right way. You can follow the pros and let the pros guide you and say, hey, I'm going to fish this $550 rod and this $480 reel, and I've got a $1,000 combo, and you will not be successful unless you buy this. Right? There's that. Okay? There's perfect marketing plug for that. Not necessary. Okay? You catch them with Primark special for $19.99 up to the $1,000, round so $2,000 round. You can get that. They're all. But all the techniques fairly simple, not a lot of complicated stuff. Like a typical setup for any of the techniques. If you go out there and want to pick one fishing rod, spinning rod, 6.5 foot, 7 foot, even from 6 to 7 foot. A lot of versatility. Medium action. When I say medium action, has a nice bend to it. Okay, so it's not a super stiff rod. So any rod you can't shake the tip to it. If you're going to fish plastics, a little bit too stiff. Okay, the stiffer rod obviously will move line very effectively. And if you're catching a larger fish, or if you're doing some different techniques, you do want a stiffer rod, you do want a larger rod to be able to set the hook, move the line, but it's not necessary. So you can enjoy bass fishing with a lot of finesse, even if you just trout gear. Okay, you can use trout gear and it'll double just as fine to go catch bass. So no need to go out and rush out there and read gear. We'd love you to, because then you support the industry. Love you to go out and read gear and 90 reels and 50 different reels for every one of the different rods you want to tie. Love that. Okay, it's all industry. Love that. But typically, like I said, a 6 to 7 foot rod, medium light to medium heavy actions. And the reel size, Mike made comments that the reel seems small for what I was fishing. Like I said, I'm fishing 2,000, 2,500 sizes. So, and sometimes I'll bump up maybe to a 3,000, but very rarely. I'm a guy that likes small compacts. And so I fish a lot of finesse stuff. So I'll fish lighter than heavy. And I know my light stuff's good, so I'll spend money on really good light stuff to be able to handle big stuff. So I'll fish, and this little combo here, so this is a Talon carbon rod, 4 to 10 pound line weight, and then it's paired with a Bass Pro Shops Pro Qualifier, John Morris 10 millimeter. This whole rod combo, pretty balanced, sitting there. Okay, so it makes it really light. Then you make 2,000 casts in 9 to 10 seconds for crop time and release. So that's kind of like it. So the technique here that I have is a drop shot, and drop shot is probably the one of the most versatile fishing techniques where you have the hook and a leader suspended off the body. And then this hook essentially can be covered with a Texas rig or a Texpose rigging, meaning we cover the hook point so it becomes weedless. So there's different ways in which you can rig this, and really, and from a tackle standpoint, I've got a bag of number 4 hooks, octopus hooks, and then a bag of these pinch drop weights, 1/4 ounce. So in tackle alone, just in hooks, $5 for a pack of Gamakatsu 10-pack number 4 octopus hooks. Some lead weights with the slip-on tips, probably down about another $5 for a 10-pack. So I got just $10 in just hooks and weights, and that's it. And then go out and buy whatever types of plastics you want. If you want soft plastics, and mimic a bait fish again, pretty pumpkin. Or curly tail grubs, watermelon pumpkin. So yeah, not too far. I don't vary too much when it comes to this. But this technique here is probably the simplest and probably one that I would put most people on that gets you fishing inexpensively. That's one thing about one water fishing. It's a very low entry price point with a lot of options that you can get into. I mean, you can, even off of this drop shot rigging here, I can fish paddle-tail swim baits. Right, mimicking a fish swimming across. And my technique, if I'm fishing this, I'm going to do a cast and retrieve, so I'm going to cast this out, let it go down to the bottom, bring it back in, and it's just going to be a slow retreat. And it's going to be a slow where I'm pausing, I might be shaking the line for a while, a couple of wheel cranks, but I'm keeping the bait in the strike zone. So it's not just a constant retrieve. Now, if I'm fishing a plug, or some type of crankbait or jerkbait, then it becomes a more continuous retrieval or just mimicking like something swimming. When I start fishing soft plastics, whether it's a stick worm, curly tail, similar to drift fishing, side drifting, I'm gonna make that cast upstream, I'm gonna follow that line, bend my line as it's coming through, feel the bottom, bump, 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 bump. I feel the bite, rear back into the hooks. Swings are free. Always tell it. Swings cost you nothing, right? You can whip all you want, but the one time you connect, that's the best hit, right? So, and as I said, I mean, from your experience, if you already steelhead fish, you can already bass fish. Because all you gotta do is read your water. No different. You just transition what you know about how to read steelhead water, transition that into bass fishing, same situation. I love taking steelhead anglers because if I tell them how to read water, they're already knowledgeable. Most of them are already knowledgeable on how to read water. I tell them to cast to the sea. See the seam. I make a cast right there. Boom, boom, walk a bait through a seam. Lo and behold, they hook up fish. Cast on the inside of the seam. Cast on the outside of the seam. Cast straight up in the seam. And language is transferable. So to me, if I'm teaching somebody bass fishing, I want to steelhead angler on my team. Because I can tell them immediately, say, hey, make that cast in the seam, work the seam. You know what I'm talking about? So they'll take the bait, whatever I give them on the boat, make the cast, they work the seam, we're gonna be on fish. We'll find something. So, like a lot of my friends, again, we all started, and, we've all at some point, started in the chrome world. Love the chrome world, still do it now. But folks that are dedicated in the chrome and want to get out and be something diversified, yeah, take your knowledge what you know about chrome fishing, and guess what? You can bass fish. So the same thing we know. So it's new, so it's not a huge learning curve. Just take what you know. Minimal volume of the different baits that are there, and you can start casting. So, but one technique is that drop shotting, really super easy to get into. And then the other techniques are up on the board there, Texas rigging, Carolina rigging, split shot. Split shotting, essentially they're essentially all derivatives off of what we call the Texas rig setup. And the Texas rig setup, without having a soft plastic here, is just lead and hook. That's it. So we use bullet weights, or you can use an egg weight. But typically, I like using a bullet weight. It can be an 8 ounce, can be 3/16 quarter. Typically start with a quarter, and then go up or down from that. So one weight that I have about a quarter ounce. That way, I've got some casting distance. I've got good lead to get me down the bottom, and I can work it. And you can find that size pretty much anywhere. It's almost all retailers are very close. And outside of that, I might be able to down what we do. Essentially, on a bullet weight, you thread it through your main line, tie your hook on, and the type of hooks I use, at least for Texas rigging or any of the other split shotting or Carolina rigging, I use a wide gap or a worm hook. And the reason being is soft plastic typically are going to be really thick, and the wide gap hooks allow for that hook to slide through the plastic or the plastic to slide through and still allow hook point penetration. So too shallow of a belly, like in an octopus hook, if you're number 2, number 4 octopus hook, if you start using that for this technique, you can cover up the hook point, and then when the fish bites down, there's not enough shank of the hook to expose the plastic, and so they'll end up biting the plastic, and you won't get hook penetration in that fish's mouth. So that's why, why do we use a funky hook like this, like a wide gap hook or a long shape worm hook with a big offset bed? That's why. So when the fish bites down, the plastic end moves out of there, exposes the hook point, and then you can drag the hook point and fish it out to get that fish life. So, again, real simple technique, and at least from rigging. So I got the weight threaded onto my main line. I attached a 2-aught, 3-aught, up to a 5-aught hook, depending on the size of plastic that I want. Typically, if I'm going to fish this, it's either like a 2-aught or 3-aught offset hook, and you can get down to circle hookers, whatever, mustache, I'll make it. And then and why we call it Texas rigging is when I rig this plastic, I'll have the naked hook, just like so. I'll say plastic. What I typically will do to make it a weedless presentation is I'll take the hook and I'll drive it in 1/4 inch of the worm or whatever the lure, to the top of it, and I'll bring this out. I know it's hard to see, but these offset hooks have a little shoulder on them, a little hook shoulder. You can run the bait up to the shoulder, just past it, and then the hook will actually rest, the bait will rest on the shoulder. And then I measure how far back that hook point's got to come through, and I'll bend the plastic to that point, bring the soft plastic through, and then what I'll do is I'll push the soft plastic forward and back, and then it creates basically a snagless presentation. So it minimizes the exposure of the point, being able to grab grass or rock or a tree or something like that. So this bait can slither over the top of things if I'm dragging it on the bottom, or if I'm dragging it over a limb or something like that, so it allows for a leadless presentation or a snagless presentation. Now, with pressure of the fish, when the fish bites down, it pushes the bait down, which then exposes the hook point, thus the power hooks in. That's when you see those guys gripping on that hook and they're trying to drive it, because they're trying to sometimes drive the hook through the plastic. If it doesn't bite down, drive that hook into the bone of the fish and do the upper mandible jaw. So that's why those guys can see the hooks. Line weights. If I'm fishing line weights, typically I'm fishing, my lines are all, most of them I'm running a braid line. I'll run a 10 to 15 or even up to 20 pound braid line. And then I pair it with a fluorocarbon or a fluorocarbon red tip, a 6 to 20 foot tip that I attach with either a UV knot or a lead knot at the Mary point. And then when I'm transitioning different types of style of bait, I can just essentially change the top shot to whatever line I want. So I can run a 6 pound fluorocarbon tip, I can run a 12 pound fluorocarbon tip with a 15 pound main line. And that way I can just have one main line, 15 pound, knowing that my break strength is at 15 pound back here, and I can adjust what my tip or my top shot is to be. So I can carry a different line weights if I want a finesse presentation. Let's say a fish to line shot, I got a fish 6 pound, I got a fish 5 pound. I can manage putting on a 5 pound top shot and then fish a 5 pound line. Or if the water's dirty, they don't care, they're not line shot, I can fish up to a 15 pound line, all with the same content. So I'm not having to change out my entire setup of line. So that's the versatility I have the braid on main line. And the variation then for the different types of techniques, whether it's Texas rigging, Carolina rigging, all that is essentially we pin the weight up above from the weight or from the lure, and the lure again is separate from the weight. So a Carolina rig, we either use a toothpick or use a swivel in between. You break this off at 2 foot meter, and then you tie a swivel in between here. And the swivel, you be dragging around the weight behind the lead. So that's what allows the bait to kind of free flow in the water. So that's what the Carolina rig does. So it allows, it's a different presentation. When you're Texas rigging, you have direct contact, and now you're directly pulling the plastic with the lead, so it's right with the main contact, which gives it a different action. When you separate the two, pin the weight or put a swivel in between, now this bait has allowed the free flow of the water column and actually adds more of a free, more lifelike presentation. So it's a different technique. And then again, you don't know which one will work better. Or you might like fishing always just, this kind of like a side rig presentation. Same typical rig. So essentially you can set up a side rig up with pencil lead here with a relay and put a 2 foot leader and put an offset hook and then put your favorite plastic. You can actually side rig with 4 bass. Works the same way. So, and you can take your steelhead rig that you would normally use and put an offset hook on there instead of a number 2 octopus or number 4 octopus, and you're fishing for bass. The last technique that's on there, the split shotting, that's one of the old school way back when. So that's just basically instead of using a swivel or anything with crimp weights, we just crimp a split shot on here, number 4, number 0 split shot, and then essentially we have the same Carolina weight, but now with the finesse presentation. Now, it's not as intrusive as catching 1 ounce or half an ounce or 3/4 ounce leg. So you can fish much more exploitation. So the fish are pressured, highly pressured, or they're just not interested in big clunky stuff. You can downsize their solution. That kind of scratches the surface on the different techniques that are out there. I mean, again, there's hundreds of them that are out there. I mean, you can fish, just a jig head with one of these soft plastics. So you have a little swim bait, so essentially it's cast and retrieve. So again, another reaction lure, real simple. Pick your favorite swim bait color, whether it's shad or deep on it. Not require variation. And then your jig heads, again, 1/4 ounce, 3/8, half ounce. We'll have to get through the water column, but again, inexpensive. You buy a bag of jig heads, buy a bag of paddle-tail swim baits, and you're fishing for bass. So, yeah, real easy to get into. But these are just some bass shots, some folks that we've had out in the past, largemouth and smallmouth there on the line. Then some salmon fishing down in the house, scurvy. Some walleye fishing as well too, Upper Columbia, Rufus, John Day, and it's all for the crowd, little veterans crowd. If you're interested in any one of the adventures, anything we've had, or more questions on our training or anything else, Mike has my contact information. I have some business cards up here, so feel free to grab one. If you have any questions, I'll stick around a little while to the meeting and answer it. But again, thank you for your time. If you have any, I'll try to open up for questions. If you have any questions, yes, sir.
So what is, it's hard to discuss the question, for the Pacific Northwest, what's our biggest smallmouth?
We've got smallmouth in the 9-pound range recorded at Egg Lake. That's state record right now. I think it's 9 pounds, just like a little over 9 pounds, 9 pounds, 2 ounces. It's caught in Egg Lake. Largemouth, where Farm Pond, I think, is 12.5 pounds for the Northwest. We've recorded, my personal best, I've caught smallmouth over 6 pounds on Columbia. Had a lot back in the day. We stumbled with sea lions, basically consumed them. So those fishes on. But that's it. But typical, like Columbia River is chock full of 8 to 15 inches. Long.
What would you say are the 3 more aggressive, the big mouth or the small?
I would say smallmouth are probably more aggressive. If I were looking for a pound fight, and a river smallmouth over a lake smallmouth. River smallmouth, they have to fight current. They're always on the hunt. They're always moving. So they are always constantly on the feed. So if I was going to fish for one fish, I'd be fishing for river smallmouth over anything else. That's what I'm fishing. Anything else? Yes, sir. So I run by seat. I'm $250 a seat with a minimum 2 person race for a bass trip. Singles, I usually run you buy 2 seats if you're a single. I typically 2 people, $250 a seat for a full day, $150 for a half day. And half day we're like inside 50 miles, so I won't go, I'll be water for half a day. I'll be good river at most of half a day. Yes, sir.
How much are the walleye spawn?
Walleye will be probably through, I would say, mid-April, because they're going to come up in waves, just like the bass, they come up in waves. So typically, we'll still find spawning fish through May. Yes, sir.
I could be wrong, but a lot of these techniques that you're showing us are kind of a little more on the salt water. And then if you kind of fish these setups with a faster water down here.
They'll work in either fast water or even still water. Yeah. So even like the drop shotting, you can fish that in prime lake. You can fish them because the techniques are still just geared to how you're going to do the presentation. So like a drop shot presentation, I can fish it in a lake and doodle it, sitting in one spot, working across. or I can cast it upstream in the current and have the current work with the current. So all these techniques are actually multi-purpose and multi-location. So you can do them in still water, you can do them in ponds, you can do them on bigger. So they are multi-function and multi-area. Yes, sir.
Did we put a limit on the walleye yet?
This, for the Columbia River, it has been removed, but the Multnomah Channel still remains 5 fish. It is not removed on the land system.
So if you did a guided trip with you for that 250 for the day, you can catch as many walleye as you want.
You can catch as many walleye as you want, but you're not keeping as many because I still have a boat limit that I put on the walleye as well too. So I put a 7-fish walleye, I sell 7-fish walleye limit on the boat because I'm not playing iron fish. I'm not here to fill 120 quart coolers on walleye.
I just love you.
Oh, I love eating them too. That's why I put a limit on them too, because if that was the case, I'd wipe them out. So I mean, in order, again, I've got to be a good steward of it safely. You know, I had an analogy and just got not to be that horse, but I said, there's guys out there that you've probably seen out there where they paste, or they plaster the whole bow of their boat with all these walleye, just stack them like quarter. 2 guys in the picture. There's over 100 fish. The economics in that, if I'm a business owner, does not make sense. Okay, if you think about that. So if you start just doing simple math and division and stuff, you figure out what the potential of those 100 fish over the course of the next 10 days could be and what his income would be versus collecting his $200 per day for that 100 fish. So instead of making the $400, you can make it $4,000 across 10 days. Distributing 10 fish over across 10 days, right, to 10 different couples, 10 different pairs of anglers. So, I mean, those pictures, I mean, the manufacturers already, they just see as gross negligence, and they cut them off as quick. So if they think they're a pro staff doing something great, that I'm the greatest angler since sliced bread, I can promise you, the manufacturer does not like to see it, and they are immediately cut off.
So just to finish that up.
Yes.
I heard that they didn't want the walleye in Columbia.
Correct, that's the state. But as an angler and as a business owner, that's my livelihood. So I will protect it, that I see fit. And I don't have to take everything that I do. So
You have a slot on the line as well.
I do. I take, again, eaters from, say, 14 to 24. So anything above 24 is a breeder. It takes a beautiful Kodak moment, and I want to reproduce them. Anything under, there's not enough meat to eat them, so we turn back and grow them bigger.
Keep your record.
Oh, absolutely. I'll keep it record. I'll keep it live. I want to send it back. I mean, those 32 to 34 inch walleye, they're beautiful. So, yeah, thanks. Okay. Thanks.